Meet Dorothy, 72 years old, retired school teacher, the kind of woman who never missed a day of work in 35 years, the kind of woman who raised 3 kids, coached the school play, and still had energy left over to tend her garden every single evening. But 2 winters ago, Dorothy got sick, and then she got sick again, and then again. 3 colds in 4 months, a flu that knocked her flat for 2 weeks, a chest infection that turned into a 10-day course of antibiotics. Her doctor kept saying the same thing: "Dorothy, you're getting older. This is just what happens." And Dorothy, being the polite woman she is, nodded. She went home, she took her vitamins, she drank her orange juice every morning like she had done for 40 years. And the next winter, same thing, sick again. Now here is the part that changes everything. Dorothy's neighbor, a quiet, sharp woman named Helen, had not been sick in over 6 years. Not a cold, not a sniffle, same age, same town. Same cold winters. Dorothy finally asked her, "Helen, what on earth are you doing?" Helen smiled and said, "I stopped fighting my immune system. I started feeding it." That one sentence, right there, that is what this entire video is about. Because here is the truth. Nobody is telling you clearly enough. Your immune system is not broken. It is not failing because you are older. It is struggling because it is not getting the raw materials it needs to do its job. Think of it like a construction crew. You have got the workers, you have got the blueprints, but if nobody is delivering the right supplies to the site, nothing gets built. The crew just stands around. And meanwhile, the building starts to fall apart. That is what is happening inside millions of people over 60 right now. The workforce is there, the intelligence is there, the system is ready and willing. It just needs the right fuel. And the 5 foods we are covering today are not exotic. They are not expensive. You do not need a prescription, a specialist, or a trip to some overpriced health store. Most of these are sitting in grocery stores you already visit. Some of them might already be in your kitchen, but the way you are using them or not using them might be the entire reason your body keeps getting knocked down every season. Stay with me, because before we even get to the 5 foods, I want to give you something you can use today, right now, something that takes 30 seconds and costs you nothing. Here it is. Every morning, before you eat anything, before your coffee, before anything else, drink a full glass of warm water with just a small squeeze of fresh lemon, not cold water, warm, almost like a weak tea temperature, and do it on an empty stomach. Now you might be thinking, that sounds too simple, and that is exactly why most people skip it. But here is what is actually happening when you do this. Overnight, your lymphatic system, which is basically the drainage and security network of your immune system, becomes slightly sluggish. It slows down. Warm water in the morning gently stimulates movement through that system. The lemon adds a small but meaningful dose of vitamin C, and more importantly, it triggers your digestive system to wake up properly. Because here is something most people do not connect: your gut and your immune system are not separate departments. They share the same building. Roughly 70% of your immune activity lives in your gut lining. So when you start your morning by waking up your digestion gently and cleanly, you are already giving your immune system a quiet head start before the day even begins. Dorothy started doing this. 3 days in, she said she could not explain it, but she just felt cleaner inside, more awake, less foggy. That was the gut starting to respond. Now let's get into the foods. And I want you to think about this not as a list you memorize, but as a toolkit you actually start using. Because information without action is just entertainment. And you did not come here to be entertained. You came here because you want your body to actually work for you again. The first food is one most people completely underestimate, and that is garlic. Not garlic powder, not garlic salt, fresh garlic. Specifically, garlic that has been crushed or chopped and then left to sit for 10 to 15 minutes before you cook it or eat it. Here is why that detail matters enormously. When you crush or chop a garlic clove, you break open its cells. That triggers a chemical reaction that produces a compound called allicin. Allicin is the actual immune-activating molecule inside garlic. But here is the catch. Heat destroys it almost immediately. So if you chop garlic and throw it straight into a hot pan, most of the allicin never fully forms or gets destroyed before your body can use it. But if you crush it, let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes first, and then add it to your cooking, you have already locked in the allicin before the heat touches it. That small, simple change in how you prepare garlic can dramatically increase what your body actually absorbs from it. Now, what does allicin actually do inside your body? It activates what researchers call natural killer cells. And before your imagination runs away with that name, natural killer cells are your immune system's rapid response team. They are the soldiers that get dispatched the moment a virus or bacteria enters your system. They do not wait for permission. They do not need a long briefing. They move fast. And garlic, prepared the right way, is one of the most well-studied natural activators of that response. Dorothy added 2 cloves of properly prepared fresh garlic to her meals every single day. Not a supplement, not a pill, just real food prepared with intention. And here's the thing about garlic that connects directly to what is coming next. Garlic does not work alone. It works dramatically better when it is paired with something that most people think of as completely unrelated to immunity. And that pairing is the kind of thing that makes the difference between food that tastes good and food that actually changes how your body functions at a cellular level. But before we get to that synergy, and it genuinely is remarkable, let's talk about the second food, because this one surprises almost everyone. And it is something that Helen, Dorothy's neighbor, had been eating quietly every single week for years without ever once thinking of it as a health food. It is mushrooms. Specifically, certain varieties of mushrooms that most people walk right past in the grocery store without a second glance. And the reason they belong on this list has nothing to do with their taste and everything to do with what they contain, a class of compounds called beta-glucans. Beta-glucans are a type of fiber, but not the kind you think of when you think of fiber. These do not just help your digestion, they directly communicate with your immune system. They bind to specific receptors on your immune cells, particularly your macrophages and your natural killer cells, and they essentially train those cells to be more alert, more responsive, and more effective. Think of it this way. Your immune cells are like security guards. Most of the time, they are doing their rounds, staying alert, watching for trouble. Beta-glucans are like a senior trainer who comes in and puts those guards through a sharper, more focused drill. Afterward, they respond faster. They recognize threats sooner. They coordinate better as a team. The mushrooms highest in beta-glucans are not the standard white button mushrooms you see everywhere. The ones that genuinely move the needle are shiitake, maitake, and reishi. Shiitake is the most practical, it is widely available, affordable, and actually delicious when cooked simply with a little olive oil and a pinch of sea salt. Now here is the mistake most people make with mushrooms. They eat them raw, thinking that raw always means more nutrients. With most vegetables, that logic has some merit. With mushrooms, it works against you. The cell walls of mushrooms are made of a material called chitin, which your digestive system cannot break down efficiently when the mushroom is raw. Cooking mushrooms even lightly breaks down those cell walls and releases the beta-glucans, so your body can actually absorb and use them. So the instruction here is simple. Buy shiitake mushrooms, cook them, eat them at least twice a week. And here is where it gets really interesting. Because shiitake mushrooms and the third food on this list share a property that almost no one talks about, and when you combine them in the same meal, something happens in your gut microbiome that amplifies the immune benefit of both. It is one of those quiet synergies that researchers have been studying for years, but that almost never makes it into mainstream health conversations. That third food is coming up right after this. But first, if this is already making sense to you, if you can already see how something this practical and this grounded in real biology has been sitting right in front of you, do me a small favor. Hit the like button. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. Because what is coming in the next few minutes is where this really starts to connect into something you can use every single day of your life. The third food is ginger. And before you tell me you already know about ginger, stay with me. Because what most people know about ginger is only half the story. Most people think of ginger as a stomach remedy. Something you reach for when you feel nauseous. Something you put in tea when your digestion feels off. And yes, it does that beautifully. But that is the surface level. That is like knowing a brilliant surgeon and only ever asking them to put on a bandage. What ginger does at the immune level is genuinely impressive. It contains 2 active compounds, gingerols and shogols, that directly suppress inflammatory signaling in the body. Now, why does that matter for immunity? Here is the connection most people miss. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the primary reasons the immune system in people over 60 starts to underperform. It is not that the system gets weaker exactly, it is that it gets noisy, constantly distracted, constantly dealing with small fires of inflammation all over the body, in the joints, in the gut lining, in the arterial walls, so that when a real threat arrives, a real virus or a real pathogen, the system is already stretched thin, already tired, already fighting on too many fronts. Ginger quiets that background noise. It helps the immune system stop wasting energy on chronic inflammation so it can redirect that energy toward actual defense. And when you pair ginger with shiitake mushrooms in the same meal, that is the synergy I teased a moment ago, something particularly interesting happens. The beta-glucans from the mushrooms stimulate the immune cells, while the gingerols from the ginger reduce the inflammatory interference that would otherwise blunt that stimulation. They are working the same system from two different angles at the same time. One is pressing the accelerator, the other is clearing the road ahead. Dorothy started adding fresh grated ginger to her meals 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes in a stir-fry with shiitake mushrooms and garlic, all three of the first foods working together in a single dish. She told me later that she had no idea food could feel like medicine without tasting like medicine. And that is exactly the point. This is not about suffering through things that taste terrible. This is about understanding what your food is actually doing inside you and making small, intelligent choices that compound over time. Now, the fourth food is where people sometimes push back on me because it sounds too ordinary, too humble, too much like something your grandmother told you to eat when you were 7 years old and you rolled your eyes at her. Sweet potatoes. I know. Stay with me. Here's what makes sweet potatoes genuinely remarkable for immune function specifically. They are one of the richest sources of beta-carotene available in a regular grocery store. Your body converts beta-carotene into vitamin A. And vitamin A is not optional for a functioning immune system. It is foundational. It is the compound responsible for maintaining the integrity of your mucosal membranes, the moist lining surfaces inside your nose, your throat, your lungs, and your gut. Think of those membranes as your first wall of defense. Before any pathogen even reaches your immune cells, it has to get past that wall. A well-nourished mucosal membrane is dense, strong, and coated in protective secretions that trap and neutralize invaders before they even get a foothold. A vitamin A deficient membrane is thin, dry, and porous. Pathogens walk straight through it. Most people over 60 are walking around with chronically low vitamin A levels and have no idea. They are wondering why every cold goes straight to their chest. Why every respiratory illness hits them harder than it hits younger people around them. And the answer, at least partially, is that their first wall of defense has been slowly thinning for years because they are not getting enough beta-carotene consistently. One medium sweet potato gives you more than your entire daily requirement of beta-carotene. And here is the preparation detail that matters. Eat it with a small amount of healthy fat, olive oil, avocado, even a little grass-fed butter. Beta-carotene is fat-soluble, which means your body absorbs it dramatically better in the presence of fat than without it. A sweet potato eaten plain gives you a fraction of what a sweet potato eaten with a drizzle of olive oil gives you. Same food, same effort. Completely different result depending on how you eat it. Arthur, another person I want you to picture for a moment, is 68 years old, former mechanic, spent 40 years working with his hands. The kind of man who thought vegetables were what you ate around the real food on the plate. His wife had been putting sweet potato on the table for years, and he had been politely moving it to the side. When his doctor told him his immune markers were low and his respiratory infections were becoming a pattern, Arthur finally started paying attention. He did not overhaul his entire diet overnight. He just stopped moving the sweet potato to the side. He started eating it with a little olive oil drizzled on top. Small change, consistent. And within one winter season, he had not been sick once. Not once. That is the power of consistent, intelligent nutrition. Not dramatic, not overnight, but real. Now the fifth food. And this one I want you to sit with for a moment because it represents something deeper than just nutrition. It represents the connection between your gut and your immune system that we touched on earlier, and it brings everything in this video full circle. The fifth food is fermented foods, specifically natural yogurt with live active cultures, or kimchi, or sauerkraut, or kefir. Pick one, whichever one you will actually eat consistently, because the best fermented food is the one you will actually put in your body regularly. Here is what is happening when you eat these. Your gut microbiome, the vast community of bacteria living in your digestive tract, is in constant, active communication with your immune system. It is not a one-way street where your immune system just monitors the gut. It is a genuine two-way conversation. The bacteria in your gut are sending signals to your immune cells around the clock, telling them what is safe, what is foreign, when to activate, when to stand down, when to send reinforcements. When your microbiome is diverse and well-populated with beneficial bacteria, that conversation is clear, intelligent, and well-coordinated. Your immune responses are precise. They fire when they should and rest when they should. But when your microbiome is depleted, which happens naturally with age, with stress, with certain medications, especially antibiotics, with a diet low in fiber, that conversation becomes garbled. Your immune system starts making mistakes. It overreacts to things it should ignore. It underreacts to things it should attack. It gets confused. Fermented foods introduce living beneficial bacteria directly into that system. They help repopulate and diversify the community. They help restore the clarity of that internal conversation. One small serving of natural yogurt with live cultures every day, a forkful of sauerkraut with your lunch, a few tablespoons of kefir in the morning. These are not dramatic interventions. They are quiet, daily maintenance, like watering a garden just enough every single day so it never gets to the point of drought. Now let's talk about how to actually weave all 5 of these into a single day without it feeling like a project or a chore. Because the synergy routine is where this stops being theory and starts being your actual life. Your morning begins with that warm lemon water we talked about at the start. Empty stomach, warm temperature, just a squeeze of fresh lemon. That is your immune system's gentle morning wake-up call. Then your breakfast, a small bowl of natural yogurt with live cultures. You can add a drizzle of honey if you like. You can add berries. Keep it simple. Keep it consistent. That is your gut communication system getting its morning briefing. Midday, your lunch or your main meal is where the heavy lifting happens. This is where you bring in the garlic crushed or chopped 15 minutes before cooking. This is where the shiitake mushrooms come in, lightly cooked in olive oil. This is where you add freshly grated ginger, either cooked into the dish or grated over the top afterward if you want the full gingerol potency. You do not need all 3 every single day, but rotating them through your meals across the week means your immune system is getting consistent, varied support rather than occasional spikes of one thing and nothing of another. Your afternoon snack, if you have one, is where the sweet potato fits beautifully. Roasted sweet potato with olive oil. Simple, filling, genuinely delicious when prepared well. Or if sweet potato as a snack feels unusual to you, fold it into your evening meal instead. The timing matters far less than the consistency. And your evening meal is where you keep things gentle and anti-inflammatory. A little sauerkraut or kimchi on the side, more garlic if you like, vegetables, clean protein. And here is something worth noting. Your immune system does a significant portion of its repair and maintenance work while you sleep. So your evening meal is not just fuel for the next day. It is the final supply delivery before your body's night shift begins. Keep it clean, keep it nourishing. Do not send your repair crew in with nothing to work with. Now I want to address something directly, because I can already hear a version of you thinking, this all sounds reasonable, but I am 65 or 70 or 73. Is this actually going to make a difference for someone my age? Has the window passed? And my answer is this. Think about a vintage car, a beautifully made engine from decades ago, solid construction, built to last, but it has been running on the wrong fuel for years, gummed up filters, old oil sitting in places it should not be sitting. Does that mean the engine is finished? Absolutely not. It means the engine needs the right attention, the right fuel, the right maintenance. And when it gets that, when you finally stop putting the wrong things in and start putting the right things in, it responds. Sometimes it responds faster than you expected. Your body is that engine. It was built well, it knows what to do, it just needs the right materials, and it is never too late to start delivering them. Dorothy had her healthiest winter in over a decade last year. No colds, no antibiotics, no 2-week flus that left her exhausted for a month afterward. She still tends her garden every evening. She still feels like herself. She told me recently that the biggest change was not physical, it was the confidence. Knowing that her body had her back again, that she was not just waiting to get sick, that she was actually building something every single day. That is what this is about. Not adding years to your life in some abstract, distant way. Adding life to your years right now, today, this week. The confidence of walking into a crowded room and not immediately calculating your odds. The quiet dignity of a body that responds, that recovers, that shows up for you the way you have been showing up for everyone else your whole life. You have earned that. And the 5 foods we talked about today are not magic, they are not miracles, they are intelligent, consistent, daily choices that your immune system has been waiting for you to make. Start tomorrow morning. Warm lemon water, then yogurt, then garlic in your lunch. Add the mushrooms this week. Grate some ginger over your dinner tonight. Roast a sweet potato this weekend with olive oil. One day at a time. One meal at a time. Your immune system will notice. Your body will notice. And 6 months from now, you just might find yourself being the Helen in someone else's story. If this video gave you something real today, share it with someone you care about, because this information should not stay with just one person. And if you want to keep building on what we started here, the next video on Longevity Lane with Dr. Mandell is going to take everything we covered today and go even deeper. The connection between your circulation, your cellular energy, and your long-term vitality. You do not want to miss it. It is waiting for you right now.